Happy Friday, second grade. This is Miss Shemansky with your Read Aloud today. Today we're going to be reading this fiction book called Lucky Beans. It's a really funny book. I think you guys are going to like it. And as we're reading this book, we're going to be thinking about story structure. So remember, story structure has 5 different parts. For story structure, we think about the character motivation or what the character wants, problem, solution, and lesson learned. And we know that lesson learned can be like kind of a trickier part to figure out. We really have to use our other 4 parts of story structure to figure it out. So today I'm going to be marking our other 4 parts with our Post-its as we read. So as we read, I want you guys to keep an eye out for me, and we're going to try to figure out the character motivation, problem, and solution, and we're going to be marking them with our Post-its to try to figure out our lesson learned. So let's get started. Lucky Beans. Cold wind ripped through Marshall Loman's old wool jacket. The snow froze his toes right through his hand-me-down boots. He ran up the steps into the steamy kitchen. "What's for dinner, Ma?" "I'm starving." So right there we have 2 characters, right? 2 parts of our story structure. We have our main character, Marshall Loman, the little boy in the wool jacket, and then we have his ma that he's calling after. So right here I already have a place that I can mark using one of my Post-its, which will be really handy when we go back and try to figure out the lesson learned. So I'm just going to mark it right there, and then we'll come back to it. Let's keep reading. "Get those boots off and hang your coat up," Ma said without looking around. "And I don't want to hear any complaints about dinner." But Marshall had already peeked into the big pot. "Beans again? Oh, Ma, can't we ever have anything else?" "Yes, it's beans again, and we're lucky to have them, so get washed on the double and then set the table." Marshall didn't feel so lucky. The elbows of his jacket were worn almost all the way through. Dad had been out of work for months, and there was no money, and the house was crowded since Aunt Minnie and Uncle Matt moved in. Now Marshall had to share a room with his little brother and his sister, Tommy and Patsy, and he was starting to hate beans. Wow, we have a lot more characters to add, right? We have Dad, we have Aunt Minnie and Uncle Matt, and we have his brother and sister, Tommy and Patsy. So I'm going to get another one of my Post-its and go ahead and mark this page. After dinner, when Ma pulled out her mending basket, Marshall showed her his worn-out jacket. Dad turned on the radio. "President Roosevelt's going to speak tonight," he said. "Maybe he's found a way to get America out of the mess that we're in." Marshall was halfway through his homework when the president came on the radio. He didn't understand all the big words, but he knew Mr. Roosevelt was on the poor people's side. So President Roosevelt was actually president many, many years ago. That's showing us that this story takes place a long time ago. It's not a story that's taking place today. On the way to school the next morning, Marshall and Tommy trudged past Kaplan's furniture store. Whenever Marshall helped Ma carry groceries home, she would stop to look at the shining sewing machine in the window. "Only $23.95, the sign had said. That was $23.95 that Ma would never have. Today, alongside the sewing machine was the biggest jar of beans he had ever seen. There was a different sign. "How many beans are in this jar? Win this brand new sewing machine." "How many beans they got in there, Marshall?" Tommy pulled on Marshall's sleeve. 100? 1,000? "How should I know?" Marshall answered, but he was thinking, "I know somebody who would know." Friends, who do you guys think would know? Who was making beans in the kitchen before? Ma, right? So she probably knows how many beans. I wonder how he's going to use that. I also want to pause right here and have us think about character motivation. So when we're thinking about what the main character wants, what do you think he wants on this page? Thinking about it. He probably wants to win the contest, right? So right there we have our character motivation, another part of our story structure. So I'm going to take one of my Post-its and go ahead and mark that so we can put our clues together at the end. Let's keep going. On the way home, Marshall looked through the store window again. Ladies were writing on the little cards of paper and putting them through a slot in the big box. That night, after Ma checked his homework, Marshall told her about the contest. The next day, when Marshall and Tommy got home, Ma said, "I went to the furniture store today. She was cooking beans again." "Did you enter the contest?" "Not so fast. I need a little more time to chew it over." "Aren't you going to complain about having beans?" Ma joked. Marshall shook his head. "I figured the more you know about beans, the better." Why would that be better? Why do you guys think? Yeah, because the more Ma knows about the beans, the more likely she is to maybe be able to guess the amount of beans in the jar, right? That night's homework was a page of arithmetic problems. How many cups are in a pint? Marshall knew the answer. 2. How many pints are in a quarter? Ma was looking over his shoulder. "Boy, don't you know how many pints fit in a quart?" she asked. "Go down in the cellar and fetch me an empty pint jar." In the cellar, Ma kept food she canned from Dad's garden. There were more empty jars than full ones. Last winter, when Ma sent them to fetch something, he and Tommy would snitch a pickle from the big crock at the foot of the stairs. Now the pickle crock was empty too. Ma showed him how to fill up the small pint jar with water and pour it into an empty quart milk bottle to measure it. 2 pints filled the quart, so 4 cups made a quart.